Man, I thought the craziest stories came out of Florida, but I think Texas is purposely trying to catch up to Florida. This is the craziest shit I ever seen in my life. Just looking at this picture, they got this black man roped, walking in between two officers on horseback, and they're pulling him by a rope like they just caught this slave and they're returning him back to the plantation. Woo, talk about demeaning. Ladies and gentlemen, this is definitely dehumanizing right here. This came out in a New York Times photo of mounted police leading black man by a rope prompts outrage. So, of course, the police chief apologized and, he apologized to the suspect. Even if they caught him during a crime, doing any kind of crime, don't you think it would have been appropriate for them to call for a squad car to come pick him up instead of walking him in between two officers on horseback? See, these are one of those, we didn't mean to do it, but you know damn well you would never have done this to a white suspect. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this story. Oh my. Mm-mm-mm. The police chief of Galveston, Texas, apologized on Monday night after a photo emerged of two white officers on horseback leading a black suspect in handcuffs down the street with a rope tied to him. The image was taken by an onlooker on Saturday and was shared on social media, where it has gone viral and sparked outrage towards the Galveston Police Department, rightfully so, especially among African American people. Many pointed to the photo's symbolism, saying it harkened back to slavery. Yeah, just looking at that photo, you would think it was 1819 and not 2019. But then again, 2019 really isn't that much different from 1819 when you really think about it. And the long history of racism and violence by whites against black people in the United States. The police department identified the man as Donald Neely, 43, who authorities said had been arrested on a criminal trespassing. Okay, so it's a bullshit charge. It's a bullshit charge. It's a bullshit charge. Okay. First and foremost, I must apologize to Mr. Neely for this unnecessary embarrassment. Vernon L. Hale III, the city police chief, said in a statement posted on the department's Facebook page on Monday night. Although this is a trained technique and best practice in some scenarios, I believe our officers showed poor judgment in this instance and could have waited for a transport unit at the location of arrest. Exactly. Exactly. You know, you weren't going to put them up on one of the horses, so the least you could have done is call for some kind of vehicle to come and transport him. What the hell is up with tying somebody and by a rope and then leading them down the road and you're on horseback like you some damn slave catcher? Oh boy. Woo, there's a reason why the world is going to turn on this country. They are. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. The police department identified two officers, P. Broch and A. Smith, and said the officers' body cameras were activated at the time of the episode. The chief's statement did not say if the officers face disciplinary action, which they're not, because if they're not saying it, they're not doing nothing to the officers, okay? The officers could not immediately be reached for comment late Monday. My officers did not have any malicious intent. at the time of the arrest. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Okay. Yes, they did. Okay. Not unless you got some more evidence of pictures of them pulling somebody else down the street by a rope as they're riding on a horse, then I believe the intent was malicious. But we have immediately changed the policy to prevent the use of this technique and will review all mounted training and procedures for more appropriate methods, Chief Hale said. These things are not training issues, y'all. You notice when they're dealing with anybody other than somebody from the Black community, it's never a training issue. But when they're dealing with us, everything they do is always a training issue. I just want you to know to make a mental note of that and don't forget it. Training never comes up until they're dealing with us. Then all of a sudden it's a training issue. But it never seems to be a training issue when they're handling anyone else. We understand the negative perception of this action and believe it is most appropriate to cease to use this technique. The police chief has taken immediate action to suspend this technique of transportation during arrest. In an interview on Monday night, Leon Phillips, the president of the Galveston Coalition for Justice, called for the two officers to be fired. Yes. I mean, look, we live in a day and age where cars and SUVs and all kinds of vehicles are on the road. Police departments have SUVs, they have cars, and there is no excuse to be leading somebody on a damn horseback. Okay. All right. So if it was a white man, he wouldn't have been treated that way. I agree with that 100%, Mr. Phillips. I agree there's nothing in their rules that you can put a leash on a guy while you ride down the street on a horse. Mr. Phillips said the person who took the photo and a second image wanted to remain anonymous. I don't blame them because, in this environment, police are always retaliating on people in the public when they video something or they take a picture. Remember what happened to the guy that filmed Eric Garner being put to death out on the streets over somebody that thought he was selling a Lucy, okay? And they ended up putting him in jail and harassing his family. So I don't blame the person for wanting to remain anonymous because, especially if you got a family and you got children, you don't want these police officers coming around and harassing you like that. Every Black person that is over the age of 30 years old will have a thought of what it used to be like, Mr. Phillips said. Younger people, they have a tendency to not get emotional, but something like this, I get emotional because I came from a segregated time and people said and did whatever they wanted to. Oh, they still do. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is truly a disgrace. This is really a disgrace and very uncalled for. So, as you can see in this picture, he's handcuffed, and they said it's a trespassing charge, which is probably more than likely a bullshit charge. And you see the rope right here that this white officer have, and then the officer right here, and he's walking in between these officers being pulled by a rope, you know, and walk down the street. Like there's cars all through the police department that could have came and picked this man up. It was a form of humiliation. And yes, I do believe this was intentional. Until you show me the pictures of them doing this to everybody, then I believe this was intentional, plain and simple. And I don't believe These officers are innocent. We have seen the actions of officers on Facebook with their racist memes and all kinds of inappropriate things posting out on Facebook. And these same people expect you to trust them out in public. No, you don't deserve anybody's trust. They knew this was going to humiliate that man, and that's why they did it. That's why they did it. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. If his charge was a big deal, they sure didn't write much about it in the article, did they? They just said it was a trespassing charge, right? But they didn't say anything else beyond that, which tells me it's a bullshit charge. It's a bullshit charge. Okay, now look, I want you to think about this. They had a mass shooting in Texas. And what did they do? They walked that suspect to the car. They walked him gently to the car. That's what they did. But this man, on some BS trespassing charge, he gets roped and walked down the street like it's 1819. And he's being returned back to the plantation. He ran away. Oh, I'm too through with this place. I am too through with this damn place. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.